Hey boys and girls, it's your boy H, and today you might not be watching my silly footage, but you do get to hear my silly voice instead. The Wizards at Evolved launched this update on the 16th of November, and have been working tirelessly to acquire said gear for the sake of science. Now, this video doesn't go over the defensive capabilities of the PvE gear upgrade, but it does offer an extensive look into the damage output differences between it and the third cast PvP plus fourth cast PvP weapon that most people on the server favor and most likely already possess. My aim by the end of the video is to provide insight which you get to choose what to do with. I will also be giving my own suggestions and thoughts on the whole upgrade. So let's dive right in. For these experiments, I will be switching between two sets of gear, but before we get into that, these are the pieces that will not be changing throughout all of my tests. The first set I will be using is the PvP third cast armor with the fourth cast PvP weapon combo we all know and love, which looks like this. The second set is the fourth cast PvE set, which looks like this. I do not have any attack level shards imbued on any of my armor pieces in any of the two sets. On the other hand, my PvP belt is sharded with spirit stones, whereas my PvE belt is sharded with attack level shards. So results might not entirely match what you might experience with your set, but it is very damn close. Our sciencing starts at the ranking mob NPC. So what I did here is I kept spamming gush and only gush till the mob was dead, alternating between the two sets each rotation. Gush has very consistent damage, which makes sciencing easier and also a low enough cooldown so I don't kill myself during the testing. I was also using Fire Shield that brings my crit rate to around 50%, which also helps with sciencing. It just means that I will probably have an equal amount of crits and non-crit hits to do my analysis. Here's the percentage difference between the two sets. Is there a difference? Most definitely. Is it a little underwhelming? Also, most definitely. So at this point, I started interviewing other people who had crafted or thinking about crafting the PvE set to discuss their experience and compare some findings. Most of the people I talked to obviously already have their PvP sets on hand, and they are thinking of crafting just the PvE weapon as their PvE set. So let's add that to the mix too. Liba also said something very interesting. Using the PvE armor with the PvP weapon dishes out even more damage than the full PvE set does. So let's add that to the mix too. Now, this got me thinking on other hybrid sets too. So let's add another set in the pool and call it the hybrid set. For this set, I will be using 3 pieces of PvP armor to get that sweet 100 stat bonus and 2 pieces of PvE armor. I choose to go with the top and the pants, of course, since it's the 2 pieces that also give the extra channeling. Now, I know what you're thinking. The PvE set offers other stuff too, like more channeling and a little bit more crit, and that things in the real world don't work as flawlessly as they do in a vacuum. And you will be right. So let's introduce a new test in the mix. I set up a macro that looks like this. And then I went to these guys and beat the shit out of them for like an hour. So I populated my data with some real world numbers too. Now at this point you'll say, yeah, but differences in channeling crit will be completely lost in the aggregate mean of the tests. After all, we're only looking at flat damage at the moment. And you would be right. So let's introduce 2 new tests in the mix. Let's go back and beat the shit out of these guys using the same macro from before, but this time let's time each kill rotation and see how everything looks. Here are my findings then. Ranked from worst to best for flat damage. Ranked from worst to best for kill time. Alright, we'll get some very interesting results here, but before we get into that, let's just get rid of the obviously worst choice you can make, crafting just the PvE weapon. It ranks last on damage and time decrease that takes to kill as compared to any of the other sets. So let's get rid of this. Some of you might say that I haven't touched the defense part, and that makes my whole science void. At which I say this: the weapon alone offers nothing in terms of warding levels, and the 5 warding levels you get from the complete set amount to an additional 3.77% of defense. And I ask you this: would you really trade a 3.77% of defense stat at the expense of a 6% flat increase in damage output? So, since we established that we can get away with not making the weapon at all, and that the PvP 4th cast weapon, which you presumably already have, will dish out more damage, option 2 also goes out the window. This leaves us with 2 options to consider. Luckily enough, those also happen to be the 2 most convenient options in terms of resources spent.
Nice.
This really is a no-brainer. Let's call the hybrid option the poor man's PvE set, and the PvP weapon option the GOAT, and that's that. Now, every self-respecting publication has this segment, so why shouldn't this one, right? Here are some thoughts for future tests. This guide does not cover the effect of the PvE gear in APS-based builds, usually found in Sins and Beamers. Please, if anyone has tested, leave a comment below. I'd love to discuss and pick your brain. It appears that after a certain point, you start getting severely diminishing returns from slaying levels. It would be interesting to test that by sharding some +3 slaying gems on a set of armor and getting some data. If anyone has that setup, feel free to contact me or leave a comment below. Alright, this concludes today's shenanigans. Have fun out there and craft responsibly.